Okay, hustlers, thank you once again for joining us. We are in another segment of our Aura Repricer software series. And once again, we have the wonderful Mr. Dillon Carter, the co-founder of the software. Yes, you're being taught by the actual inventor. It doesn't get any better. And in this video, we're going to be talking about one of the major features. It's called workflows. So, once again, how you doing there, Mr. Dillon?
Good, man. I'm excited to geek out again. We're going to put some spotlight on my baby. This is a feature I teased for like a year on podcasts. I was just like, hey, what if we did this, right? Like I wanted it, but I needed to see if users actually wanted it. To give you some background on this feature, I am a huge user and fan of tools like Zapier for automating things in web apps, right? Seller Central is actually integration partner there. You can't do a whole lot, but it's kind of cool. You know, Siri shortcuts on my phone. So like literally my phone, I'll show you, it's basically all Siri shortcuts. That's all automation that I build, right?
Wow.
So I'm the dork that's like, hey, if a computer can do it, let the computer do it, right? So fundamentally, we talked about this in the first video. We talked about like repricing conceptually basically is that, right? You're saying, hey, here's how I want to do these things. Go do it for me, right? When you're creating your strategies, that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying, here's how I would want you to do it. Just go do it. Like get rid of it for me, right? Don't worry about it. And obviously there's a lot more advanced, complex things like machine learning we're doing on the back end to kind of help out, right? Especially with speed and performance. So once you have, you know, your Aura account set up, you got strategies, you're repricing. That's awesome. There's still a few tasks you need to do. And I didn't like the fact that users still had things that they had to do, right? You list your new inventory via Inventory Lab, and then now you got to jump into Aura and do something, but you can't do it immediately because you got to wait for Aura to import the listings, which is not immediate. So it's like, dude, what do we do here? I don't want to have to set a task for, 4 hours to come back and do something else. So we created workflows. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. We're gonna walk through them. So workflows. I'm excited about this. Yeah, honestly, this is like so underutilized in my opinion. Okay, so workflows are basically triggers and actions. We have 2 triggers and 4 actions currently, and we built it in such a way that they're Lego pieces. Every action needs a trigger and every trigger needs an action. Okay. That means you can kind of design these to do whatever you want within the confinements of those triggers and actions. Okay. But I'm going to walk you through the 2 things that I think you absolutely need. So let's create one. So triggers, we got 2, pretty simple. New imported listings. That means that the listing itself is new to Aura. It doesn't mean that you sold out and now you came back in stock, right? We're not looking at inventory. We're not looking at age right now. So this is a brand new listing, which is fantastic for RAOA because most of your listings are going to be new anyways. Yes. And then we have a time of day. This can be repeating, and I'll show you this real quick. Let me move our zoom out. This can be repeating on certain days, 1 day a week. This could also be punt this out into the future. You can say in 3 months, I want you to do this crazy odd thing once a month, whatever. Right. And then you tell us what time within those desired days you want us to do something. But let's focus on the first one, new listings. So let me walk you through a cool world here. You have to list your stuff on Inventory Lab. We know that, right? Yes. Okay. So you list it on Inventory Lab. Inventory Lab has your costs. Aura imports your listings from Seller Central, then goes to Inventory Lab and says, hey, do you have a cost for this? Inventory Lab says, yeah, we got it. We pull that in. And then Aura, via this workflow, is going to set your strategy and toggle on repricing. So before it's actually live and ready to sell, it's ready to go. So in the last video with strategies, we talked about those 3 things you have to reprice. You got to have a strategy applied, repricing enabled, and at least a min cost. But if you're automatically setting your min costs, your min price, we need a cost. Well, we're getting that from Inventory Lab. So those 3 things can be completely automated for you, which is fantastic. So what we're going to say is for every new listing, and actually I'm going to pause right here because there is an interesting thing. Okay. What happens when a new listing comes in, we do this work, it goes out of stock and we come back in stock a month later, or it didn't toggle repricing off. Okay. And Aura every 24 hours is looking to make sure that the cost it has for active listings are up to date from Inventory Lab. So if you go out of stock and you don't touch anything, you don't toggle anything off, and you go back in stock. All you did was list. It's toggled on. We're going to update your min price based on the current fees and your current cost. And it's got a strategy. So it just goes back to repricing as if nothing happened, right? So even if it's not just the new stuff, you're really set for replenishables as well. Okay, so let's jump in here. New listing. Now we have our actions. We got 4 actions, right? We're going to talk about the filter block in a moment. But first, you have pause repricing. This allows you to say, for a duration of time, I want you to do something with my price. This could be, take me into my max price. Hold me there for 2 hours. This might be, let's do the buy box price. Actually, let's do a custom price. So we want to get crazy with it. Plus 10%. So I just want to raise my price 10% above the buy box and hold it there for 5 minutes, right? We can do that. So when a lot of people say, I want to reset my prices at midnight, basically take all my prices to the max price, this is how you do that. You can do this pause repricing thing. And we call it pause repricing because we're setting the price and then holding it there for a period of time. That could be 1 minute. It could be 5 hours. It's up to you. So there's some interesting things that we can talk about there that kind of gets into a little bit more advanced workflows. Then we have set strategy, which we're definitely going to use here. You get to choose from whichever ones you have.
Yep.
And then toggle repricing. We can toggle it on, we can toggle it off. So here's what's interesting. Filter block. This makes it really, really cool. You can say, depending on certain criteria, I want to do something different. So I might want to say, if the SKU, let's say you're creative with your SKUs and you put wherever you bought your inventory from in the SKU. Say I bought it from Walmart. I might want to say, I cannot type today, Walmart. If the SKU contains Walmart, so it's from Walmart, maybe I want to do something different here. Maybe I want to say, I want to set my strategy to liquidation. I don't know why, but let's just roll with that. So for every new SKU that comes into Aura, if it contains Walmart, we're going to set that strategy. But then what we're going to say is for everything else, we're going to set our regular strategy. So we can take different paths. Now, the way I have this structured right now is not going to work, and I'll explain. The way workflows work, they go from top to bottom sequentially.
Okay.
So let me put this back the way I had it. What would have happened here is it would have said, great, the SKU contains Walmart. Say I got 10 SKUs, 5 out of the 10 contain Walmart. It's going to set the strategy for those 5 to liquidation, but then it's going to take all of them and set them to my main oscillation strategy. So these would have been rewritten.
I got you.
So when you're creating workflows with filters, the approach here in the tenant is go super wide and then get more granular the further down you go. So what I want to do is I want to say for all of these, all 10, set them to the oscillation strategy. But then for these 5, because of the filter, update them to my liquidation strategy. So you can see we can kind of be complex here, but let's make it simple, right? We don't want to do all this craziness. I just want to say for every new listing that comes in, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to set my strategy to my oscillation strategy, and I'm going to toggle on repricing.
And hustlers, you got to understand, if you don't do this, you got to manually go out there.
Yes. Every SKU. So what I want to do is I just want to say, I'm just going to give this a nice descriptive name for these naming. It's not the same for strategies because it's not as complex. I might just say, let's enable this sucker, and we're good. So with those 2 things, and assuming you're integrated with Inventory Lab, you just took away all those tasks. For every single listing you would have had to do something with, you no longer have to do that with one workflow.
Love it.
Okay. Now let's get a little bit more advanced here. Let's go with the time of day. I want to say every day of the week, and we're just going to choose a random time here, but let's just assume it's 10 p.m. right? We're just going to say 10 p.m. I'm not going to convert this in my head. We do have a conversion right here. So if we want to click on that, we'll help you out there.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't do the data conversion, but yeah.
Yeah. You got it set for 2 p.m. right now, but
oh, there we go. Okay. So let's just assume this is 10 p.m. I want to do something interesting. I want to use a filter block, and I want to say for every SKU using this strategy, I want to raise my price. I just want to try to get a little bit more out of this, right? I'm going to do it for 10 minutes. I'm going to do that 10% above the current buy box for each listing. So see how this is dynamic, right? I'm not saying go to my max, right? Sometimes that's good, but honestly, going 10% above the buy box and holding it there for 10 minutes might be enough to ink out an extra 2 to 3%, right? So we're going to do that. Then I'm going to add another filter because I want to do something different with my liquidation. So for my liquidation strategies or listings, what I actually want to do is go to my min price for 10 minutes. Actually, you know what? Let's be different here. Let's stay with this custom thing. We're going to go below the buy box. Why are we doing this? I'm trying to move that inventory, right? I'm trying to say, hey, just for like 10 minutes, tank me for a little bit, and then let's go back to wherever we were. Because again, I'm not trying to make profit here. That's an upside if we can. I'm trying to get my capital back, right? Now, workflows are never going to go outside your min and your max prices. So if you're at your min price already, it's just not going to change the price.
Got you.
So now at 10 p.m. for 10 minutes, I'm doing something different for the listings that are on my main strategy and something different for my liquidation. But let's say even my liquidation, I don't want to do anything with them. Okay, don't. Get rid of that. And then what we're going to say is main listings to 10% above buy box.
And that would repeat
10 p.m. This would repeat every day I chose, which I did every day of the week to make it simple. So now not only can I do the operational things that I need to get Aura repricing, which is what we did with the enable repricing workflow, I can now take this a step further and say, hey, there's some things I need you to do. And that might be based on strategy. It might be based on the SKU like we talked about, right? Let's say you put your buy date in the SKU. Let's roll that for a second. This one's actually kind of cool. So let's update this filter. And I don't care about the strategy. I want to say it's in the SKU. And let's say you typically name these in this fashion. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to say, as long as it's got, let's say you don't care about the date. I don't think you really should care about the day. I'm going to say that, right? So I got the month. So this is actually just going to be month, year. If I've got the month, year, I can then say for every SKU that was bought in October of 21, I want you to do something different. And maybe that is actually, let me go through here. So it's nested. I want to change my strategy. I want to change my strategy to my liquidation strategy because I've been holding it too long. Right. And then I can change my thing here to say it's not repeatable. It's going to happen at a specific date, which would be November. Let's say I want to have a little bit of buffer time here, November 5th. So on November 5th, all my SKUs that I purchased in October will get updated to a new liquidation strategy automatically for me. Now I'll have to do this for every month, but I can pre-create these. I need 12, right? So I can basically clone this, update the filter and the trigger date and move on with my life. So now even moving things to my liquidation strategy is done for me. Wow. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this is going to happen if they are active. So when they go out of stock, they're still going to be set to this. Gotcha. So if you do come back into stock, it's coming back into stock at your liquidation strategy, not your main strategy. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. But there's some workarounds there as well, right? I can basically create the inverse of these workflows and say, hey, after I know this is good, always going to trigger on the 5th of the month. So on the 6th of the month, I might do something different, or I might say, a month past that, right? Depending on how quickly you can sell out, I might revert back to my other strategy. Or when these trigger for the next month, it's going to also trigger for the past month, right? So I can combine these workflows if I want to. So you can see how we can get really creative here, right? You always need to think through the exceptions. This is a very logical kind of thing. There's already some problems in building this that I can foresee, which is what happens when I buy it on the 29th of October. On the 5th, are you now going to trigger this? So I got to think that through, right? So this is where we kind of expand away from repricing by itself. This is where, again, in the first video we talked about viewing your business holistically.
Yes.
How can you change how you approach and create your SKUs to make repricing more effective and efficient, and vice versa?
Mm-hmm.
We want to think through these things. Sometimes, again, I always recommend being super simplistic over more complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to get a little bit creative and strategic, right? So what's interesting is we can basically, based on what we just built, assuming there are no problems, obviously there's some more work I would need to do here to get this really fleshed out. My Aura account is on complete autopilot. I cannot touch this for a year.
The little emblem on the main listings workflow. It has that little filter under the actions column.
Yeah,
right away.
Exactly.
I can see there's a filter associated with that.
Exactly. So we have some iconography here to kind of tell you somewhat what's inside. But here's what's great, right? Like these are automatically going to trigger. So if I set this up correctly, I can basically have a VA list my items for me if I wanted to. And everything after the listing phase is done for me, automated completely. The life cycle of all your products. You can literally not log into your Aura account for a year and it will still be humming as it should be. I don't think you should do that. You should check on it, right?
But I haven't been using workflows. I've had Aura before you had it, and I wasn't even thinking. So
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like it's built in such a way that you can kind of do whatever you want with it, but that can also mean it's like, well, what do I do with it, right? What do you recommend? And like, if you just want to get started, just do the enable repricing stuff.
Yes, that's what
singular one.
I'm forgetting sometimes to go out and make sure I toggle on.
Right. And you shouldn't have to do that, and we're very customer centric. So for me, I'm like, why should a user have to do that? Mm. It's a repeating task, right? You're not like, oh, maybe I'm going to do it differently this time. It's like, no, dude, you have like one strategy. Like you always apply that one strategy. So with this is workflows, right? We can take this a step further and get super complex with it. I don't think we need to. No. It's just like strategies, right? What's the bare minimum that gets you? What's that 20% that gets you 80% of the way there?
Exactly.
Right. For strategies, it's the oscillation strategy and the liquidation strategy. You got those two, you're good for a while. For workflows, it's one. It's this guy right here. If you got this, good. Move on with your life. Spend more time sourcing the things that make you money, right? And then as you start to think through, hey, I do things kind of differently for my inventory. Fantastic. Write that out on a notepad, type it out. What are the exact actions you do and when do you decide? Well, if you can tell us, if you can basically quantify that, well, you can probably use a filter to filter those listings to treat them a certain way, and then use the action items that we have available to do those actions for you. We're not going to have everything. Like ideally we would have age of inventory, right? So you could just say, hey, when my age of inventory is 14 days, move it over to liquidation. And then you could say, when my age of inventory is less than 14, move it, and it's on my liquidation, move it back over to my oscillation, right? So we can get more advanced through time. But we try to pick enough triggers and actions, again, that 80-20, to enable you to put your account on full autopilot and spend more time on the things that really, really matter and have a higher ROI, like sourcing and hiring and growing the business.
Amazing. This has been a great series. Hustlers, I'm going to continue as I did with the very first Aura video. I'm going to add some, and now most likely I'll be consulting Dillon for some input. I really look forward to continuing, because there's so much that we can learn. And I love the fact that, it's not just about repricing software. It's like you said, the totality of the business, how you view it, how you approach it. That has so much to do with not only whether or not you can have success, but whether or not you can scale your business.
Yep.
Even things like how you name your SKUs, because if you want to be able to filter and sort later, you got to have some commonality thread in there. But I'm looking forward to working with you on some more great content.
Yeah, man.
For the working class hustlers, man. So
we're just getting started.
On you. So hustlers, I think you guys can see the value in the software. It's a no-brainer if you really want to be effective, if you really want to stay competitive and get that velocity up. You have to have this software, and there's no reason for you not to at least give it a try. The link is down in the description. You have a 45-day free trial. That is insane.
Just don't tell anybody.
Take advantage of that right now, and we'll see you in the next video.